Hey lovelies, it's Victoria and I'm back with a spoiler-free review on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Yes, finally. I am so sorry to keep you guys waiting. I really did not mean to, but it's been busy on my end, so please forgive me. But you know me, I like to keep my promises about the videos that I'm gonna give you guys. And so I'm starting with this video. Directed by Wes Ball, the director who gave us the Maze Runner trilogy. The film stars Owen Teague, Bria Allen, Kevin Durand, Peter Macon, Ika Darville, Lydia Peckham, Travis Jeffrey, and William H. Macy. I have been anticipatingly waiting for this film to come out ever since they announced that there was going to be a follow-up to the Rise of the Planet of the Apes films. And now it's finally here, and now I can finally have a chance to talk about it and go a little bit in depth from what I know from the last three films and apply it to this one. But more so, it is still a spoiler-free review. I'm not giving too much away, but what is already kind of like known and somewhat insinuated when you watch the trailers and everything. So excited to get into this one. The film is set approximately 300 years after the events of War of the Planet of the Apes. The film follows Noah, a young ape, who goes on a journey along with a human woman named May that will lead them to question everything they know and been taught about the world and about the past to form a new future for apes and humans alike. The story I thought was overall amazing. Like, for real, I was thoroughly impressed with the direction that they chose to go in with this film, because let's not forget, this is taking place sometime after Caesar's time, because okay, I'll give a little bit of a spoiler for War of the Planet of the Apes, but in the last film, after Caesar has led his people, the apes, to freedom, and now they're in a paradise off for them, he dies at the end of the film. And in a way, Andy Serkis does somewhat give his blessings to the new cast of this film. So this is some generations after Caesar's time, and giving us a new character to follow with Noah, a fresh-faced ape, chimpanzee to be specific, and he's probably around teenage to young adult age, but he is going on his own hero's journey, which is similar in the same vein as probably Luke Skywalker from Star Wars, and dare I say it, if you've heard of this film, Zoran from Legend of the Guardians, the Owls of Ga'Hoole. And so it was interesting to see that played out in this film. And as he learns about Caesar and his teachings, which he never knew anything about, and so he really didn't know much about Caesar, and applying them to his journey that he's going on, it was interesting to watch how his character starts seeing things in a different way than what he has known his whole life so far and been taught by his family, his tribe. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's back up a little bit. The film also shows how much has changed since War of the Planet of the Apes, where apes are now kind of like split up into separate clans, separate tribes, and some don't even, like I said, like Noah, don't know anything about Caesar. Some of them are just like oblivious to their history of when it comes down to what happened with him. While there are other apes that do know of Caesar and embrace his teachings, or sort of kind of twist up his teachings, because it's been so long since his time, and so there's no one to give point accuracy to what people are taking from his teachings. But then again, that's very relatable to anything like in this time, like when you read the Bible or when you read about any form of human history. When you weren't there, how could you possibly know what happened there except for what was written down or what was told in storytelling? So interpretations, misinterpretations, or just putting your own spin on it. There are apes in this film that sort of put their own spin on Caesar's teaching and use it more so to their benefit than using it as a way to help persuade, or not persuade, help enlighten and encourage their fellow apes. And in this film, the whole saying that the last three films were built on, apes together strong, yeah, in this film, that's sort of thrown out in a way, depending on the clans that we meet in this film, or how some apes think in a different way as to like when you're in a clan, when you're in a tribe, it's like, yeah, it's pretty much still that apes together strong because you're helping each other. Everybody has their part to play in a tribe. But when it comes to apes that wish to be on top or conquer other clans, other tribes, that whole slogan is thrown out the window for their benefit. It only comes back in when it is for their benefit. If they can use that for their benefit to convince people to stay under them, stay underneath them, stay underfoot. And so it was interesting to see how much has changed since Caesar's time, and also seeing how it's like, in a way, when you think about it, Caesar was kind of like a Moses character from the Bible. He led his people to freedom, and now they are able to choose how they wish to live their lives. And so it's kind of like in the same way for Noah, in a way. I don't know, he's already making me think of Noah from the Bible, even though his name is spelled completely different. But okay, not completely different, there's just not an H in his name. But either way, but I sort of think that in a way, when you think about it, and I think I'm not the only one that believes this, when you look at Noah, you could possibly see that he could be possibly, I don't know, I'm not saying that this is true or not, this is my guess, he could be of some kin to Caesar. He just probably doesn't know it yet. We don't know it yet. So, but if they decide to go in that direction for the next film, well, let's just remember this moment. But either way, the story was just, I felt like it was a great way to begin this new journey for this new set of films and for the new set of characters that we have here. And it's also kind of a great start to building up the world that it is now, which almost seems like it's kind of like evolutionary, how things are starting to, because the apes, they are pretty much talking majority of the time. Yes, they still use sign here and there, but they are talking, they are riding horses, they are pretty much like, they are evolving, but not as fast as probably some people would have liked to see it yet. But hey, it takes time for things to grow and lead up to the place that we're thinking it's going to. So I was okay with seeing how that works, that there's still apes that are not really wearing clothes, they're just apes doing their thing. They just have more intelligence, and they are also able to speak. And also with the humans in the film, we'll get to that in a bit. And I feel like they did a good job establishing these new characters and building up their relationships, because it feels realistic, the relationships that we see in this film. It doesn't feel like, okay, we're just mashing everything together and let's get to it, let's keep moving. It feels like it was it was organically progressing with the different relationships that was happening in the film. You could tell whether someone really knew someone well versus if they didn't really know them too well, but they know of them at least. And in all honesty, I didn't expect the story to be as good as it was in this film. I did think that it was going to be at least good enough, considering what all that has happened from in the last film and the film before that. And so I guess I just didn't know for sure what to expect. I don't think anybody did until they started dropping hints of what the storyline was going to be for this film. And so, but when you see the film, it just felt like this was the right choice. It felt like this was the direction that it needed to go in to start building upon what was already given to us, and in kind of like still, but at the same time starting from scratch and building up this new world and us exploring this new world and all that has changed within it. Because the apes, I will say, they seem pretty much like they are at the center of the universe, or at the center of this earth, that they are pretty much on top, while other creatures of the world are pretty much underneath them, including humans. And like I said, the whole apes together strong thing, yeah, that doesn't really mean much anything in this film, at least with all the apes split up into tribes and whatnot. And one tribe, or should I say kingdom in particular, that is pretty much killing and enslaving apes for its own gain, but yet, let's just say, while still under the geist of apes together strong, embracing the good words of Caesar, but once again, like I said, using it to their benefit, not for the benefit of all ape kind. So, so I felt like this was a good start to a new trilogy, possibly. Let's talk about the characters and their actors. Of course, we have to start off with Noah, played by Owen Teague. And if you don't know him from anywhere, I think he was in something called The Stand. I only heard of it and I saw his face in there, but I definitely know him from It, like Stephen King's new It adaptation, where he played one of the bullies, and and he was sorry spoilers. I'm not here to talk about that, but either way, back to Noah. As a character, I thought he was a great character to follow in this film. I really did think so. And in all honesty, I could see a lot of myself in Noah, because it was like, and that's probably why it was easy for me to follow him in this film. He is a sweet, I would almost say very sweet, respectful, supportive, and just a innocent young ape who is just trying to live his life and do what's expected of him and his tribe, but then all of a sudden is thrown into this situation where he has to learn more about the world than what he was initially taught at his tribe. And so with all that implies, through him we are able to see through his eyes how much has changed since Caesar's time, like I mentioned, and see how he responds to them, those situations, these moments that he's in where he really has to kind of like think on his feet and decide for himself what he is going to do. And at the same time learn from them, whether they be something that really was helpful or whether they be mistakes. And also keep in mind, people are kind of seeing, because he's the main character that we're following in the film, people are would somewhat expect him to be at least close to the same level as Caesar. But I think that's the whole point of this character being a new character that we're following. He is not at the level of Caesar. He is just this new person that we're following. And so we're seeing where his journey is going to take him, like we saw where Caesar's journey took him. And so I didn't expect him to be at the same level as Caesar, being as epic, being as highly intelligent, being as amazing, like astounding character as Caesar. He is his own character, and he has his own area of, he has his own thoughts, he has his own life that is definitely not Caesar. And so he's new, he's a new character, and so this is the character that we're following. And I liked following him because he seemed very realistic to me. Like, he is a young person that has all these thoughts swirling around in his head, whether it's the stuff that he has always known, whether it's the stuff that he is learning along the way, whether it's stuff that is kind of disturbing to him, but yet he is wondering, is like, okay, is this really that bad, or is it really not as, or is this really awful that it shouldn't be a thing at all, kind of thing. But the thing is that he is dealing with his own, like, issues within his life, as Caesar was dealing with his own issues in the films before. And so he's trying to figure out how to navigate through them. Yeah, so his character is definitely not at the same level as Caesar. And so, because he's just starting his story, his own story here. So I found that easily forgivable. And with Owen Teague portraying him, I know from when it comes down to it, I felt like Owen brought a level of pure openness to Noah, and also just this level-headed maturity and curiosity. But at the same time, he also has this, he's careful. He has this cautiousness to him, and somewhat this kind of like, for being young, he also has this wisdom within him that he uses to figure out how to go about what to do. What's the next step for him? What should he do? What should he not do? And so I really enjoyed seeing that. I really felt Owen really brought all that to this character well. And also definitely when it comes to Noah's eyes, it felt like when it came to his eyes, that was definitely part of the acting that made it believable to me, because Noah's eyes to me, was filled with so much, filled with empathy, filled with truth, and filled with this determination to do what's right. And while still he has so much to learn, he's still pretty much in the beginning stages, but he's still willing to do what it takes, that is, when it comes to doing the right thing for the people he cares about, the right thing based on what he knows just in life in general, and also from being in the tribe that he has lived in and what he has learned. And I think Owen Teague did a great job with this character, and I await to see what else he does with this character if there are other films that follow. And then we have May, played by Freya Allen, May to me was a very intriguing character from the very beginning, because when we first meet her, we think of her in one way, but then as we learn more about her, and she becomes, it's almost like, when the more we learn about her, it almost feels like the more ambiguous her character becomes, because it's almost like as if, the best way I kind of describe it to me, and I could be wrong, but let me know what you guys think about her character in the comment section. But I almost felt like she was almost kind of like a subversion of Nova from the original Planet of the Apes, and just in a different way, or at least that's how I felt like it was starting out with her. But then, like I said, the more we learn about her, it's almost kind of like she becomes, you don't know what her deal is. And I think that's what I love about her character the most, is that you really don't know what her character is about, really. Even as the film goes on and it gets to the end, I felt like I still really didn't know much about her, or what is it that's her goal versus what I knew about Noah and what he's trying to do. And yet Noah still lets her hang around, and he still tags along with her. And it was a interesting sort of dynamic between those two characters. But as far as with her character, all we know about her is that she is a human that is able to speak, and she has her own name. So we can only assume that she was pretty much immune to the virus from the previous 3 films that pretty much either wiped out humanity or sort of dumbed them down. And when I say dumb them down, basically they lose their sense of speech. They can't talk, and also their intelligence is just not at the level that it used to be anymore. But for her, it's pretty, you start to see that it's obvious that she is not that type of human. She's not, and also she's not primitive like a lot of the humans in this film have become now in this day and age. She is smart, resourceful, caring at times, but on the other hand, she is untrustworthy. She is calculative, and she also has her own biases when it comes to the apes and how history played out between the humans and the apes. And because of these qualities, actually, when I think about it, she could actually juxtapose the villain in this film, Proximus Caesar, which that I definitely found so fascinating. And I think Freya did a great job with this character, because I felt like she really brings sweetness to the character, but in a yet cold demeanor kind of way. And which May shows through her own personal dedication to whatever it is that she is trying to do, what she's trying to achieve in whatever situations that she is put in. And also, but you could also see that she is a character that knows how to bond with others, particularly Noah and Raka. And then we have Proximus Caesar. Proximus Caesar, who is our main antagonist of the film. He is definitely, I will say, I have seen my fair share of interesting villains, and I would definitely have to say that he is definitely up there in this film. Because when you watch this character, it's almost like you're watching a very charismatic, I won't go there because that is too much. That would be giving too much of a hint and a wink when you think about it, because you already notice when he first steps on the scene you already notice what kind of character he is, so you know what I'm talking about. So Proximus, who is the self-proclaimed and self-appointed ape ruler of the Roman Empire-esque kingdom of the apes, he has created this kingdom where he has conquered tribes and enslaved them to work for him, work underneath him, and serve him, while using and twisting up Caesar's teachings, his words, in a way that, like Apes Together Strong, he uses that too, just to get people to justify what he does, and to justify why he needs to keep doing what he is doing, and convincing the other apes to just go along with it. Because I mean, hey, if we have our own kingdom, if we have our own way of dominating the planet, why not, right? But like many great villains, he has his actual points too. I mean, he has his points for why he does what he does, which can almost make you can almost see why other apes are willing to just follow him, why it's easy for them to follow him, because he makes really good points about humans and how they can be, and also there are some truths. While there is some half-truths and mistruths, there are some actual truths in what he is saying about how humans can be. And in a way, that's what confuses him about Noah willing to trust someone like May over his own kind, when he, for one, he doesn't know anything about this girl. And on top of that, just the fact that, of course, she's human. So why would you trust a different kind over your own? And then again, it's also the fear of the other, because you don't know the other. So so Proximus kind of has that, and he plays on it, but he doesn't really seek the actual truth within it. And he also has a bit of a sense of humor to his villainy that I found actually kind of interesting in this film, especially the scenes where he is talking a lot of, just talking it up and insulting others while he's at it. And you just kind of like, ooh, snap. But at the same time, it is kind of like more so he just has he has a charismatic personality as a ruler, and also he knows how to persuade very well those that really believe that they should not have to be afraid of certain things. They should be the ones on top because of all that has happened in their world. And so I think that he was a really good villain, and I would normally just say antagonist, but it's clear he is a straight up villain. I think Kevin Durand did an excellent job as this character. I really felt that I felt like he was astonishing, really, as this character, because he was in the latest vampire film Abigail. If you haven't seen him in that, I recommend that film. It was actually pretty good from what I saw. And but in here, he brings a lot to this character physically and vocally. He brings all the charisma, the bravado, and just kind of like and subtle intimidation with how he looks at certain characters, and he doesn't have to say jack about it. You just know that, oh, okay, I just need to shut up if he gonna keep looking at me like that. But either way, and also he brings a lot of very soothing persuasion to this character that I really liked. And also just kind of like, let's not forget that this character sees himself as a advocate to all ape kind, but in reality he is less like Caesar, because I mean, down to his name, Proximus Caesar, being mainly next to Caesar is what it would translate to. He is less like the Caesar that we know and more like Julius Caesar during the Roman Empire times. So yeah, history is something else when it comes down to it. And so, and keep in mind the whole Julius Caesar reference and the Roman Empire reference for later, because I'm going to bring that up with another character later on. He just wants to conquer before someone else conquers him. That's his deal. There's Rocca, played by Peter Macon. And with this character, he is pretty much the mentor character in this film. I mean, if you can't think of Obi-Wan Kenobi, if you can't think of, I guess it would even qualify a little bit of Qui-Gon Jinn, or just any mentor character you can think of from other films. That's who his character is, and that's the kind of role that he is playing in Noah's life when they meet. He is, he pretty much sees himself, he claims to be a true follower of Caesar and his teachings, and knower of the history of humans and apes during Caesar's time. And yet, there are some half-truths to that history that he gives out in the film from what he tells Noah about. But he does give Noah and May the tools they need as they decide for themselves what's right and what's wrong with what is going on in the film. And there are points in this film where he basically is telling them that, yeah, even though you two are different from each other, different species or whatnot, you too can, if you're willing to work with each other and be willing to empathize and willing to understand one another, you two together can be strong. So taking that out of the apes together strong, you two together strong, if you're willing to give it a chance. And it's kind of like moments like that that sort of make me think of films like one of my favorites, Disney favorites, The Fox and the Hound, which also is a film that talks a lot about the fear of the other, especially the other that is able to hunt you down and kill you, or the other that is willing to cause a ruckus to your home, and especially your farm, and maybe even kill your farm animals or whatnot. It sort of made me think of that. That sort of came to mind when I would think of what it is that Rocca taught Noah and May together. And in a film, and let's just say in this film, they do use that and both of their journeys, even though they still don't fully trust one another, they still are able to work together and are willing to work together because they have a chance together rather than separate. And I definitely enjoy Peter Macon's portrayal of this character, and I really felt like there were definitely moments in the film where he stole the scenes that he was in, and so I had no complaints about that whatsoever, because I actually loved seeing him when he was on screen. And then we have Silva, played by Ika Darville, and you may know him from like the show Jessica Jones. I definitely recall seeing him in that. And in this film, he is playing the secondary antagonist. He is Proximus Caesar's right-hand ape, commander of his ape army, pretty much, which is, it makes me think of Michael Clark Duncan from Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, but a little bit better. I felt like this has evolved well, and so it was nice seeing that. But the thing is, with Silva's character, you really don't know too much about him at this point or at least in this film. You just know that he is doing Proximus Caesar's dirty work. He's pulling out the conquerings and the destructions of other ape tribes and enslaving them and taking them back to their kingdom. And so with all that being entailed, it's kind of like, well, what more is there to your villainy exactly, aside from the one fact that Noah has some beef with this character. And the reason why he has a issue with him is because of specific things he does in this film that are pretty much personal to Noah. And so aside from that, we don't really know anything much about his character. So I felt that that was a little bit of a downside to his character, because I did want to know a little bit more about him, because he could have had some kind of like motivation behind what he was doing rather than just being a loyal servant to Proximus. But either way, it is what it is, and I still thought the character was pretty good to an extent. And he's pretty much the brute strength to Proximus Caesar's, brains and cunning. Ika Darville's performance as him, I thought was a awesome performance that he gave, because he pretty much, I felt like he brought so much forceful dominance to his character and intimidation. If, let's just say that Proximus Caesar is very much enough intimidation for me, but if he needed some backup intimidation, let's just say Silva was his backup in this film. And so I felt like Ika really did a good job bringing that to this character. And also definitely in the scenes where he is running after you or swinging in the trees after you like, oh my God, I gotta get away from this big ape, because he gonna, if he don't crush me, he definitely gonna do something. You didn't think that May was the only human character in this film, did you? No siree, because we have Trevathan, who is played by the film legend himself, William H. Macy. And I could give a whole list of the films that he's been in, but I'm not going to do that right now because I only have so much time on this video. But either way, with his character, he is pretty much, when you think about it technically, he is essential to the events that take place in this film. And why is that? Is because, and more so, he is essential to the creation of this kingdom, this ape kingdom that Proximus has created. And why is that? Because he taught Proximus all about the history of apes and humans, and how apes used to live when humans were on top, and also the fact that the history of everything when it came to apes being in cages in zoos and humans being on top, leading to the virus that pretty much crippled humanity, except for the humans, that it just affected their way of speech, and also affected how they are able to process or think on their usual human level is pretty much almost like no more. And also the humans that are immune to the virus, that it didn't affect them whatsoever. And history to how the apes under the leadership of Caesar were able to rise to dominance over the planet due to all the things that I mentioned that happened. And so it was just like he was the one that gave Proximus the tools that he needed to figure out, okay, I need to start conquering some of these areas, or all of them if I can, because I definitely do not want these humans to rise back up and then we apes end up living in cages again, or specifically me living in cages. I am definitely not going to be doing that anytime soon. And so so he was the one that taught him the history of everything, and he even taught him things about human history. He somewhat taught him about the Roman Empire based on what he was able to provide him in the books that he had. And why does he do this again? I can't really say, because that would be too much of a spoiler. His character was definitely shifty and very much like, he starts off, when you first meet him, you think that he's kind, or you think that he is trapped or a prisoner to the apes, but the more you learn about him, you learn that, yeah, he is nothing like that at all. I wish I could talk more about the rest of the wonderful characters in this film, but I wish I could talk more about the rest of the wonderful characters in this film, like Sona, Noah's friend and possible love interest, and Anaya, his best friend, and Koro, Noah's father, and Dar, Noah's mother. But if I did that, we would be here for, let's just say we would be here all day. There's no getting between that or behind it. So yeah, I'm afraid I can't talk about everyone in this video. The cinematography was pretty much as expected to me, meaning it was amazing, but pretty much kind of like how I felt it would be, like how it was from the first 3 films. I didn't really expect too much difference, but I will say that it was good when it came to the viewing of the landscape of this world, like when the camera would just kind of like zoom out and just you see how big and vast this world is now, and how different it is compared to the world that we were introduced to in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, to War of the Planet of the Apes. We see that this is definitely a different world, and it's pretty much is like, it's almost like the whole world is a jungle now. No real human, like, you know, buildings, establishments, nothing really, or at least from what we see in this film. And so I thought that was pretty good. And also, on top of that, just even with the grand scaling of the ape kingdom, Proximus Caesar's kingdom, it was so amazing. It really did look like something that you would see from like the Roman Empire. I see from like maybe the Aztec kind of like areas, especially the ones that were so well known. And so it just felt like it was grand in scale, and they really planned for it to look that way. But it was visually stunning, and the CGI was well done too. However, there were some moments in the film where you could tell it's plainly if something was pretty much CGI'd, and it was kind of telling at some points, but it wasn't, you didn't see it too much. It just happened in like certain scenes, I'll say. Now, if you can't tell whether it was CGI or not, then good for you. So you obviously, the suspension of disbelief was good enough, so no problem there. And then we have the motion capture technology that was used in the previous 3 films as well, from Weta Fox, used to be formerly Weta Digital, I think. And so they have returned to work on this film, of course, and they also used the mocap from the previous. There have been many times where mocap was used in Lord of the Rings, and the Avatar, and Avatar: The Way of Water, and The Little Mermaid. So we know that mocap can work well with certain films that are trying to build out their own worlds, and especially when it comes to their characters being creatures other than humans. And so that definitely was a big help in this film as well. And I feel like it was more, the characters looked more convincingly like apes this time. Like the fur is definitely looks like more like ape fur rather than just sort of CGI'd frivels in a way. Not saying that it was bad in the last 3 films. The mocap was really great in the last 3 films, but you can tell that they learned from what they did in the last 3 films. Oh my goodness. And there's my dog trying to cause a ruckus at the moment because he knows I'm talking about this film. And when it comes to fur, he doesn't like me to talk too discouragingly about fur. Hey y'all, I'm back, and guess who's joining me for the moment? It's Dasher, and he is gonna help me try to better explain my deal with the fur, the CGI fur on the characters. He thinks that the fur was definitely more than pretty decent. He thought it was very decent, that it looked realistic, and that it definitely looked like they were actual apes up in there. And so at this point, he is bored by what I'm saying, as far as saying that it was just better. So my bad, Dash. You're right. The fur was awesome. The CGI fur was stunning work. So great job, Wes. And Dash wanted to compliment you on that as well. Yeah, Dash really did enjoy that fur. And he really just wanted to go to the bathroom too, so I had to do a little disappearing effect for him, and so now I'm back. So where were we? Oh yes, we were talking about the CGI of the film, but we already got done with that. And also we talked about the motion capture technology, which I felt like when it came to the performances that it was used for, it was still very much top notch, and they did a great job, the actors did, in portraying these characters that are apes and them having to perform bodily as apes. And so I really enjoyed everyone's performance in here that were playing apes. And also on top of that, I think the cast, they hinted at that they had to go to ape school to learn how to be able to walk and move like how apes do. So I hope that was more fun than it was painful, because I have heard many horror stories from when it came to like Tim Roth when he was playing an ape in Tim Burton's The Planet of the Apes, that it really hurt his back trying to move in that ape way. But I hope that that wasn't the case for these actors, because yeah, you just gotta be careful how you use that body. We all have to be careful how we use our bodies, but if it works, then it works. Okay, let's get to the themes of this film. If you're familiar with the previous films, then in this film, it's pretty much, the themes are pretty much still the same. I mean, themes of power and oppression, conflict and coexistence, identity, finding your sense of identity, and the ethics of leadership. But this film, I'll say this film does add a little bit more themes to it in here. Like, there are definitely themes of distorted interpretations, especially interpretations of history and preconception of the other versus the truth, and the concept of right and wrong. All these themes combined together, I felt really helped make is really what helped made this film awesome, and really helped it go in the direction that it went, which I am happy where it went to. Where near as we get to the end of the film, you start to see all of that somewhat come together, even though the future is still very much uncertain of what's going to happen next. It still has done the building blocks for what is to come. And so I'm excited to see what's to come in the next films, which I'm hoping that there will be next films. I'm claiming it. So as for the score of the film, which was composed by John Pizzano, I think. If you don't know him, he has worked with Wes Ball before. He did the score for the Maze Runner trilogy, so they have definitely worked together. And for this film, I have to say I honestly didn't pay too much attention to the score in this film. The only time when it felt like I was paying attention to it was when in the film there were different turning points that were happening, and that's when the music somewhat intensifies. Not intensifies in a loud booming way, but in a way that it's kind of like, okay, this is the point of no return here, and it's showing that a bit in the music's volume heighten up a bit. And so it was like, it was all right. It was all right. I wasn't really paying too much attention to it, in all honesty, but from the little that I was paying attention to, it was okay. It was a decent score. All right, now let's get to my rating. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I would have to give Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes a 9.7. I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I really enjoyed this film, and I look forward to what's to come next. And so I would definitely recommend that if you haven't seen this film yet, definitely go see it, and definitely go see it if you can in IMAX, because it definitely looks amazing in that format. But at the same time, I guess at this point I kind of waited a little bit too long to do my review on this, so if you wanted to wait till it came out on streaming or digital, then you can still watch it then too. I mean, there's no timetables for when you need to see it, but I do recommend that you see it, because and even if you think that, well, the story was not all that like the other ones, well, it's like, well, keep in mind, this is just the setup. We are waiting for where this setup is going to take the next films. And we are still very much, like I said, sort of starting from scratch. We're building upon the last 3 films, but we're starting from scratch with these new characters, with this new story, with whatever is going to come about in this possibly new trilogy. So don't judge it too harshly on that, and don't judge Noah too harshly, because he's just at the start of his story as well. He's at the start of his journey, so let's see where his journey takes him. With all that being said, if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and if you have any thoughts on this film, please leave it in the comment section below. I would love to get a conversation started on this film, because I love the Planet of the Apes films, and I could talk about them all day if I could, but then, like I said, we would be sitting here all day, if not all week. So I have to get going. And also, with all that being said, I will be definitely coming back with my discussion on them season 2, The Scare. So I'm sorry how long that's been taken, but I'm, like I said, as I am working and also trying to do these videos when I can, I want to be sure that I'm giving you guys all the info you would like to know about it, best of my abilities. And so please be a little bit patient with me on that. And I also will be back on my review and discussion or review / discussion on Inside Out 2. And so look forward to that, because I think I will be having a little collab with a fellow YouTuber on that one. So I can't wait to share that with you all. But till then, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. Oh, and don't forget, apes together strong.